My name is Linda Clausen. I live in South Bend, Indiana. I'm now 61. I was 57 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My diagnosis was DCIS. I've just always been real good to go get my mammogram every year. And so I did, and when I got the mammogram back, there was a questionable area, and it was calcifications. And I'd had calcifications about 8 years previous and had them removed, and it was nothing, so I thought, okay, it's nothing this time. So I went back in, and I had a core biopsy and needle biopsy, and it came back that I had cancer cells. So of course, you hear that word cancer. I was immediately just not up in arms, but upset. So anyway, my surgery was scheduled, and I had a lumpectomy. After the lumpectomy, the results came back, and the margins weren't clean. There were still some cancer cells there. So my surgeon said, well, let's do another lumpectomy. So we did another lumpectomy. The results came back again that the margins possibly were not clear. In the town of South Bend, where I live, we have a tumor board, which is made up of surgeons, oncologists, pathologists, radiologists, and cases that are a little iffy, they talk about it in this tumor board. Well, my case went before the tumor board, and I was given the choice of having radiation for 8 weeks or having a mastectomy. And if I had the radiation, I had an 8% chance of it returning, and it was in my right breast, and I didn't like the odds. So I decided actually right then and there, it was a 7:30 on a Thursday morning, I'll never forget it, and my surgeon had actually reserved an operating room just in case I wanted to have the mastectomy just then. And so I never had a second thought about it, walked right to surgery. Because we found it so early, I did not have to have radiation or chemo. So I was just very, very, very lucky. I was stage 0. It wasn't even a lump yet. The other side of breast cancers it's been interesting. It's over 4 years now, and I look at things in a different way. Not that I was a pessimist or whatever before, but I feel that God was really good to me and let me get through this really pretty easily, I felt, because losing my breast to me was not that big a deal. I didn't have to do chemo. I didn't have to suffer through weeks of that or radiation or whatever. And as far as I'm concerned now, I'm cancer-free. So I've tried to give back what I could to different organizations. I've done 4 walks in Chicago to raise money. I volunteer on a hotline. People that I know that have been diagnosed, I've taken meals to them or whatever when they've had to go through chemo or that sort of thing. I just enjoy what I have, and I enjoy a wonderful life, actually. I have 2 grandchildren now that I didn't have before, and they're the light of my life, and I just try and enjoy every day. Probably everyone that hears that C word, as I say, as everybody probably says, I think the first word you think of is it's a death sentence. And I think probably you're not being honest with yourself if you don't say that. I didn't really dwell on that, though, because I had so much support, and the doctors, my oncologist and my surgeon, were so sure that they could get all of it, that I wouldn't have to worry about it. A lot of our friends couldn't believe that I was going through it when I was, but I think for the most part I was pretty upbeat the most of the time. My husband, he was just amazing. He was so supportive through the mastectomy and everything. I mean, even when I found out I was going to do that, he was wonderful about that. It didn't make any difference to him, and it didn't make a difference to me, which helped him not caring about that part of it. He just wanted the cancer gone, just like I did. Our friends were just amazing. I got over 100 cards. It was just I probably cried more when I got the cards and the floral arrangements. I got like 13 floral arrangements. My house, I joke that I looked like I died because I had so many flowers, but it was amazing. And my children, I have 4 grown children, and they were wonderful. And they never, if they thought I was going to die or if it scared them, they didn't let on either. But maybe it was because of the way I reacted to it that sort of helped everyone through that. It was friends, family, faith. You have to have faith, I think, or you just sort of let down. Having cancer and the thought of not being around it's a little earth-shattering, and finding out that I could deal with that, it actually probably made me look at my whole faith thing about death and dying and all that. And actually it might even have made me come to realize that it's okay. I mean, it's going to happen to all of us, and if it happens sooner or not, and I think maybe that's why I learned to give more and do more and not put so much emphasis on some of the things that I did before. It's taken a little bit more emphasis off the materialism that I had before. I teach elementary children, and I teach art, which is very fun anyway. And it's in my relationship, I mean, I love the kids. It's a great job, but I'm probably a little more, even as I've gotten older, you get to be a little bit more grouchy as a teacher or whatever because you've been there for so long. But I've sort of gotten back in touch with really being supportive for those children too, because the kids have problems also. But just thinking about every day, and my mother always used to say, "This is the day the Lord has made. Rejoice and be glad in it." And when I'm out walking, or like I've done these long walks to raise money. When I train for the walks, I'm out a lot, and I do a lot of it by myself. And on days that the sun is out and it's absolutely spectacular out, I mean, you just have to rejoice in being alive. And I think that's one thing I do now more than I did before. Maybe I took it for granted, but just the part of being alive and being here and being able to appreciate everything that I have, I think that's probably changed in my mind a lot. Let people in. Let them help you. They want to be there for you. And I think that's probably what I would tell women that are newly diagnosed is look, if support is offered, take it, because you need it. You really do. You can't do it by yourself. You can do it by yourself, but it's not nearly as easy. And if for women that are afraid to find out what's going on, that's probably the biggest injustice you can do for yourself, because you need to know what's going on. If it's, if it is cancer or whatever it is, then if you know what it is, then you can fight it. If you don't, if you continue and it is cancer, then the longer you wait, the worse your chances are for survival. So, and I think for every woman to know their bodies, know how you feel, do your self checks, go for your mammograms, do your yearly gyno checks that you need to do, everything that you can do to keep track of your body so you know exactly what's going on.